If you enjoy listening to The Edge, support them by subscribing to The Edge on iTunes, Stitcher, and you can listen through the iHeartRadio app. Get busy listening.
This is The Edge.
The advantage it means.
Hey, look, I just spit on me for no reason.
That's horrible.
Is there some comfort in uncertainty, do you think?
You're a degenerate.
Because Australian Shepherds need action.
Wow. Yeah.
This is The Edge.
That's a self-loathing term that I use.
Oh, got it.
Hi, this is Mark. Welcome to the show. We check in with our podcast family. J. Elvis Weinstein, Josh, the writer, documentary filmmaker, and comic, and Heather, actress and producer, Heather Ankeny. She will also check in. And we talk to an Uber driver who gave up a successful law career to drive for Uber and live in Las Vegas. More on his story in the second part of the show. We'll start the show with Michael Shure, the Fast 15, politics, and a few other items. This show is being posted on Earth Day, and here on Earth Day, many of the nation's cities are being occupied, if you will, by protesters or demonstrators, those who are demonstrating for science and the return to science at a time when our American government seems to be retreating from science. As you know, the proposed budget slash programs for the EPA, for NASA, the Department of Energy's Office of Science is facing a proposed $900 million cut. The thing that bothers me most on this Earth Day is that this is a very fragile planet. We have extremely sensitive ecosystems, and they can't endure the discharge of toxins and poisons into the land, water, and air and remain a habitable place for humans or any other creatures. And so when Trump signed an executive order that repealed that stream protection rule, that was for mining companies, and that was a regulation that required testing during and after mining. That's gone now. So now mining companies can poison waterways with total impunity. I just don't see the logic behind that. Plus, the new president has told the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers that he wants to reconsider a rule that designated certain waterways around the nation as protected under the Federal Clean Water Act. I mention that because that could threaten the drinking water of 117 million Americans. So we're not talking about a couple of small counties here and there. And by the way, if we were talking about a couple of small counties here and there, we still shouldn't tolerate it on basic principle. I haven't even gotten to greenhouse gases and climate change denial and all of that stuff. But I just wanted to make this point on this episode that even if we're not protesting in the streets like so many who are drawing attention to the way the earth is threatened and the difference that this country can make and the move away from science, I think we can all keep these things in mind and at least be aware of what's going on in our country in relation to these issues. All right, speech is over. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting this show. Appreciate your comments. And now, let's get started.
edge-show.com.
edge-show.com.
This is The Edge.
Time for the Fast 15 with a man who's forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's our Michael Shure, everybody. Yeah!
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Michael, so much to talk about. Last time we had a lot of politics, and I said we'd get into stuff that was not politically related today. But some big things seem to be happening. At least they're being represented as big things in the world of politics. So we must ask. A lot is being made of this Georgia race, the the 6th district.
Right.
Can you put that in some context and talk about whether it was a good night for whatever party? Both are claiming it was a good night for them.
Yeah, so there was a race mark in Georgia, in the 6th District of Georgia, to replace Tom Price. Tom Price, a conservative congressman who was elevated to the cabinet to become the Secretary of Health and Human Services for Donald Trump. This is his seat, a Republican seat. Trump only won by very little in that Georgia district, which has a lot of Cobb County, some of the Atlanta suburbs. So there's a reason to think that Democrats, if they could have done well anywhere, it might have been there. The Republicans are saying that it was a good night for them because they dodged the proverbial political bullet here, and they forced a runoff in June in a favorable Republican district at a time where it seemed that the momentum was with Jonathan Ossoff, who is running as a Democrat. That said, Republicans dodging bullets in Kansas and in Georgia is generally considered a good thing if you're a Democratic Party activist.
Meaning you shouldn't have to dodge bullets in Kansas and Georgia.
Right. You wouldn't have had to do that. And, each one comes with different baggage for the Republicans. In Kansas, the Republican governor, Sam Brownback, is looked at as somebody who Republicans don't like and Democrats really don't like. And the blowback to Brownback was a lot of why the Democrat even came close there. There are a lot of people, especially Bernie Sanders Democrats or Bernie Sanders independents, if you want, who are saying, oh, no, it's because they had a progressive message. Yeah, that helped. But there's also something at play there. These things don't happen in a vacuum. And then you move to Georgia. Karen Handel, who came in second and still lost by over 30 points to Jonathan Ossoff. She was a former Susan Komen Foundation head there, president of that foundation, the Breast Cancer Foundation. She had to leave because of her activity with Planned Parenthood, how she was opposed to Planned Parenthood. And she also ran statewide for Senate. So they're familiar. That's a familiar name there. The guy who sort of wrapped himself in the cloak of Donald Trump, Moody there, he lost by a ton. So the message was a rejection of Donald Trump because no Republican was able to get more than 20% there. They split a lot of votes, but still, Donald Trump didn't do well in that race. And I think the Democrats have to be encouraged by that. Whether they win in June, that's another story. There's no indication that they should have trouble if he was able to get 48% of the vote there.
This episode has our conversation with an Uber driver who was, for 13 years, a successful lawyer. Now he drives for Uber in Las Vegas.
It's amazing. Mark, I've listened to that segment, and I give it 5 stars.
It's always interesting to me to talk to these people who are part of the ride services because they are a different pool of people than you find with the taxi cab drivers.
Yeah.
Who I also speak with, and, generally they're immigrants, they're Pakistani, or they're Afghani often. Like that was the last time I had, it was in a cab, an Afghan guy.
Here in Los Angeles, a lot of Russian cab drivers, too, older and younger.
So there are some kind of cool stories. I was in a Lyft, and a woman was a student, and, the car kind of felt like she was a student. Like I felt like I was getting a Lyft to, like the concert that night.
Right, right.
I like kind of like maybe a higher-end experience when I'm trying to get it all organized. And that on Lyft, you can't have that. You just have, the roll of the dice.
Yeah.
On Uber, you can ask for that.
And there's one in New York City now called Juno, which is only by invitation can you be part of Juno as a passenger. So only passengers with a high enough rating and only drivers who have a 4.8 or better can drive for Juno. And it's a fledgling thing. They take less money than Uber does, and they charge less to us, too. So it's an interesting thing. These things are going to, start cropping up in different places.
I love that.
Yeah.
By coincidence, I was with my friend yesterday. Now, he's a CEO of a company, and he is involved in a company that sort of has an Uber model in a totally different area. So he actually became an Uber driver. He wanted to experience it.
Right.
And he said, I was ready to commit to, open-ended, like I would do it for a couple of months or whatever.
Yeah.
He said, I lasted 2 days. People come in, they treat you horribly.
Really?
He said, the other thing is that I have and got a high-end car, so I could drive for Uber Select, which I guess is the higher-end choice.
Right.
He said, nobody chooses that. Everybody chooses
the least expensive.
Exactly. Yeah. He said, so I don't get any rides if I just maintain my Select status, so I have to start fishing at the lower level, and now they're driving in my car for less money, and most of them just treat it like,
It's amazing, because I can't imagine what you would do to a car in the 11 minutes or 27 minutes that you're in it. As just a human being with a credit card who was able to order this car, what are you going to do to that car that's going to trash it? Maybe spill.
You could be eating, you could be, usually I would think what you're leaving behind.
Yeah.
But you're right, what can you leave behind? It would be like a bag of food or something like that.
Right.
A lot of people I think on the run have fast food. I think it's probably something in that space.
Yeah.
You just came from a trip where you were on the ocean. You went whale watching.
That's correct. Yeah.
And you saw the sea life as you went offshore of Laguna, which is a gorgeous area of Southern California.
Dolphins, seals or sea lions, and whales, gray whales.
Was SeaWorld closed or something?
Yeah, I had a Groupon to the sea, and they didn't have one for SeaWorld.
I mean, that's the way you should see this stuff, not in some stupid tank,
Right. Although, and I'm not talking about SeaWorld because I think that's a different world, but I think that aquariums serve a great purpose because there's always an attachment to these aquariums of sea rescue, of research, oceanography. I think there's a difference between SeaWorld, which is an amusement park, and the Atlanta Aquarium, for example. I think that they do real work, and oceanographers and marine biologists spend all their days with these fish, learning about them, learning how to sustain their environments, to save coral reefs, all of that. So I do think, by having people come in and see fish in a tank, there's a difference.
The ocean that you were in,
Yeah.
the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Right.
Yeah.
It is plagued, as are many oceans, by tremendous amounts of pollution. I mean, there's so much plastic being dumped in the ocean. It's beyond a calculable level.
That's right.
And what's happened is these pieces of plastic have been collected up in the currents, and there are these big gyres. I think there are 5 of them around the world.
And some of them are like bigger than, the state of Arkansas.
That's exactly right.
That's how big they are.
Yeah. What they're finding now is that these pieces of plastic are showing up in the Arctic. So they are drifting, and the signs of human activity are showing up in these isolated environments.
Yeah.
And I mention it because there's a sense of the ocean, I think, there's just so much of it, and there's so much sea life, and we can just keep yanking fish out and yanking crustaceans and all the rest.
Right.
Plus, we can dump everything in there because it's out of sight, out of mind. But the truth is, it's become a fairly polluted place.
Yeah, it has. And again, it's so big that it can withstand, in some places, it flushes itself, and in some places, it becomes a major both climate and environmental disaster. And I think the only encouraging thing about it is that the people, and I've met a couple of them, but that's just anecdotal, but I've read so much about the work that people are doing. They're great people that are aware of this, and it's a problem that's sort of, so many problems in the world are not addressable, right? This is an addressable problem, and they are making inroads into how to curtail it, both with the people that manufacture plastic and the people that take it out of the water and the climates that are involved with it. I think it's in a weird way encouraging, while it's also really depressing.
In mentioning this to me, you'd mentioned also that, because a guy who happened to be leading this whale watching thing, you had a keen sense of his awareness of how sensitive an ecosystem this is.
Right. Yeah, that's sort of a partnership. Like, I get my living from this ocean.
He's a fisherman.
Yeah, well, he's the whale watch guy, not a fisherman. He likes fishing, but that wasn't why I was with him. I was in Vancouver fishing recently with someone who was a fisherman, and it was more profound with him than it was even with the whale guide, because he was very, very strict about which fish he could keep and which fish he couldn't. And there's not like a policeman on board. There's a measuring tape to the side of his little boat, and you hold the fish up there, and then you throw it back in the water. And we fished a lot that day. My son and I caught a lot of salmon. They just weren't ready yet. And he said, they're not ready yet. We're going to put them back. And he kept putting them back and putting them back.
Those fish that are thrown back, I'd heard for many years, many of them die because the shock of being yanked out, and also the hook in their mouth does so much damage.
Yeah.
What did the guy you were fishing with say about that?
Well, first of all, he uses barbless hooks. So the damage that's done is, there's no way to ask a fish, how does this feel? Probably not great. But the injury usually heals very similarly to as if they got into it with another fish, or if they got they bit something. That's what I'm told. But there's a salmon monitoring outfit in British Columbia that issued a report about they tagged fish that were returned after being caught on a line. And those fish had a higher rate of survival, which they found to be a little anomalous, a higher rate of survival than just the regular salmon that they were tracking, who had a normal lifespan and weren't caught.
So it's not necessarily the case that
it's not necessarily the case, but that's because they've worked with the fishermen to make sure that that this is what's happening. You're throwing younger fish back, that you are using barbless hooks, that you are not having bait that's going to cause them to swallow. He was fishing on a lure, so a lure isn't something that they swallow all the way, the salmon. It really depends.
Michael, I want to mention that you got a negative email last week.
We know that. We know that happens
from Randy. But he then sent a positive email about you.
Okay.
So it's now a push.
So
okay.
I'm 1-on-1 with Randy, but if he doesn't like fishing or if he disagrees with me about debris
you're back
in the
in
ocean,
play. You're back.
I'm back in play. No. I'm a big boy. I can take the punches.
He sent pictures of his place there in Palm Desert.
Yeah.
And he's doing very well. It's a gorgeous place. So we may want to do one of our shows from his house.
That's fine. I'm certainly not going to begrudge anyone for doing well, so that's good. And yeah, we could broadcast from his house.
I mean, why not go right to the belly of the beast?
It seems a little odd that Randy hasn't invited us yet to do the show from
Well,
his
he
house.
hasn't invited us to do the show, but he is sort of getting to the point where we go, hey, if you guys are down here.
Oh, that's
so,
good. All right.
I mean, he doesn't realize that we really will do the show there.
Right.
All right.
No. He should know that now that we would. But, I don't know. Is the place big enough for our live studio audience here?
That's a great question, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to make special arrangements.
We should ask Mark. Let's ask these fine people if they would be interested in going to Randy's house. I mean, I think that's the kind of thing.
Guys, would you go, everybody, with Randy's place?
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That's
All
great.
right.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, that could be our next show.
Yeah, I love it.
It'll take some time to get those logistics together. One thing they are certain about, their love for Michael Shure.
Thanks, folks. Thank you all. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Michael.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. And if you haven't already, why don't you show your support and subscribe? What's the matter with you? Go to Edge Show. Oh, it's Edge Dash. What's with the dash? Stupid. All right, I want to thank you for all the ways that you support my friends on the Edge podcast. Show your support and leave something on their website, edge-show.com. Stupid. Why is there a dash?
edge-show.com.
So seldom do we get a chance to have Heather Ankeny and J. Elvis Weinstein here without other guests. I feel sometimes we get distracted. This is the original troupe. Actually, Heather, Heather, you were the original troupe. And then we found J. Elvis by the side of the stage one night.
Quite a tale.
Yeah. And,
Quite a tale.
Well, I don't want to lord it over you guys, but I was just retweeted by Steve Martin. 7 million followers on Twitter.
It was praise of Steve Martin, wasn't it?
Well, let me just say this, though. I knew that the cynical among us, J. Elvis Weinstein, would likely focus on that. But I then went to the larger Twitter universe and saw that there was a lot of praise of Steve Martin. In fact, maybe hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tweets that were praising him. But he only retweeted one. And that was mine.
And what was the text of that tweet, Mark?
Who cares what it was, Josh?
Well, I want to.
I mean, isn't
isn't
the important thing that
I want to know where the bar is?
Well, I was really taken by his live show, which I saw in Las Vegas, and so I tweeted words to that effect and
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
And a photo, and then he retweeted it.
So you retweeted praise and a photo of Steve Martin, and he retweeted it.
But again, I went to the larger Twitter universe, and a lot of people do that.
Well, but you had really good seats.
Why did you not pin
So
it?
it was a good photo of Steve Martin.
Oh, should I have pinned it? I don't even know. Now, what's the theory behind pinning?
Oh,
on
you
Twitter?
didn't retweet the fact that he retweeted you.
No, and that, Josh, I should get some credit for.
Okay.
Because I know that
How would you? How would you retweet a retweet?
You would quote it and then write.
Or you simply
Holy
retweet
shit!
it.
I just got retweeted.
Wow, that would be maniacal.
Not maniacal. I thought you might see it as desperate. You're the whole reason I didn't, Josh, because I knew you'd give me shit.
Well, okay, you're right. I'm glad that you know me that well.
So wait, so when did you see Steve?
I saw it last night.
Oh, look at you being all topical with your "no one's getting dragged off my flight yet." Were you on United?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm extremely topical and funny, Josh.
I know you are.
You're not the only one.
I know.
Oh, here's
I'm
the
not
tweet.
even in the top 10.
This is why he retweeted you, fool. I paid a ton to sit up front for Steve Martin and Martin Short show. Absolutely terrific. Funny, music, and more funny with them taking a bow.
All right. Yeah, see, exactly.
He's almost required to retweet someone that said, I just stacked paper. Wait,
Right.
what is it?
It's like the VIP package comes with a retweet.
With a retweet from Steve Martin.
I love that. I love that.
You just made it rain in Steve Martin's bank account.
I
He better retweet you.
I get what you're saying, but I don't want it to diminish, again, what I said prior, which is that I searched Twitter. Many people were in praise of Steve Martin, but he only retweeted moi.
It's not true. I follow Steve Martin. I actually do. Did not see his retweet of Mark Thompson, or I probably would have freaked out. But I did see he went on this kind of retweet sort of frenzy of his joke was, don't retweet. Like he would write, Steve Martin, don't retweet this. Do not do it. And then he's like, oh, I did it. And so he's doing this little funny bit of trying to stop himself from retweeting compliments. So he actually has been retweeting quite a bit of compliments lately.
Well,
so sorry, Mark.
I'll cut all that out.
You probably should. By the way, great photo. Are they tap dancing? They are.
The show is so great.
How much did you pay, really? And is it worth going if you can't sit up front?
It's worth going, yeah. In fact, they build the show so you don't really need to sit up front. There are these huge screens. It's at Caesars, anyway. It was a huge screen. I would imagine they're playing venues that have these huge screens that would allow you to sit anywhere.
Is it something my dad would like?
Yeah, he would like it.
I mean,
Burn.
he loves... No.
Yeah.
I was thinking of looking if they're going to Denver. Can I tell you guys, did you see or have you heard of the Billy Crystal show that's going around?
It sounds like a disease, doesn't it?
The live,
No.
sorry, the live Billy Crystal show
Is this
No.
this
with
is,
Bonnie Hunt.
No,
No.
I like Bonnie Hunt.
Does he have like different guests? Did I hear, or is it? It's,
Well, there was a handful that were Bonnie Hunt. Probably.
I'm
He
not
probably
sure.
does, yeah.
When I hear Billy Crystal news, my ears don't exactly go bing.
Exactly. And so this was from my boyfriend. It was, hey, Merry Christmas. I got you a Christmas present. We're going to see Billy Crystal. And I was like,
ouch. Ooh.
not my Christmas present, but thanks. I
Yeah.
have no desire to go see Billy Crystal. So I never brought it up, right? And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, that Billy Crystal concert is Thursday night. And I was like, oh, I can't go during the week.
I have an artist rendition of you at a Billy Crystal concert for your next gift.
That's a callback to the fact that when Heather's boyfriend was in prison, he sent her a rendition of her, literally a painting of her done by another inmate.
Right.
And she's like, where am I going to put this thing? Like a picture of me done by an inmate?
Entirely of bodily fluids. That was the weird. It's not a popular medium, but
So,
Anyway, the point is
Yes.
is that I ended up not going. I was about to say not having to go, but really.
that's
and then
fantastic judgment.
oh, it's great. And then they exited the show, and the first thing this other couple we were going with said was, "She knew." It's bad.
I have my own Billy Crystal Broadway show experience. At the time, Billy Crystal was, quote, hot, meaning he'd done the Oscars multiple years during this period, and he seemed as though he was sort of a little more in the zeitgeist than he is now. I was never a huge fan of Billy Crystal, but I wasn't a hater of Billy Crystal. I just wouldn't have gone to his show. My college roommate called me from New York and said, I just saw Billy Crystal's one-man show on Broadway.
This is like the 700 Sundays.
700 Sundays, right? Which
okay.
is the number of Sundays that he would have spent with his dad had, is it not,
nice.
or he would have, or that he did spend? His dad, of course, died, and it was sad. His dad died after they'd had a big fight, apparently. That was his last exposure to his father, and he died. So, that story is sort of like emotional, and my college roommate, who knew me and knows me very well, said, you will love this show. It's got some music in it. It's emotional. It's funny. It's great. I'm thinking, well, I kind of have seen Billy Crystal on Saturday Night Live through the years. I kind of grew up with him. I've seen his Muhammad Ali. I've seen his You Look Marvelous. I've seen all of that stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen him on the Oscars. I don't feel as though there's anything about Billy Crystal that I need to see more of. Mm-hmm. But what a great sales job my college roommate did. So I arranged for tickets to this Broadway show, and I arranged to fly from L.A. to New York to see him.
You told this story.
Oh, I've told it before?
Yes, I think you might have told it on the air. Sorry.
Oh, if I've told it on the air
Dear
and you've heard it, then you'll just enjoy hearing it again.
Okay.
And for those who haven't heard it.
That's amazing.
So, to me, one of the big reasons that I was going through all this trouble is he wasn't touring with this. Like, he's, this is it, Broadway, and then he's closing it down. So I am packing literally the night before. Literally, maybe, 13 hours before I'm supposed to leave. And he's on Letterman that night. And I thought, wow, this is cool. He's on Letterman. Now I'm getting kind of jazzed. I'm going to go see him. Tomorrow I'm flying to New York. I'm packing the bag right there in the bedroom, watching him on Letterman. And he says, Dave, I've got an announcement tonight. The show, which is closing in 2 weeks, we're going to take to L.A. And I just wanted to kill him. Like, there was
doing it in the living room with this guy named Mark Thompson.
Was it any good?
Well, after that, you're so full of anger and resentment that you've gone to all this trouble, spent all this money.
You're the one who planned a Billy Crystal trip, let me just say.
So fair, Josh. Well, turns out this show was 3 hours, and it started right at 7:30.
Oh, boy.
They got out at 10:45, no intermission. Billy Crystal sitting on a stool with Bonnie Hunt, the two of them talking about, it was sort of like a This Is Your Life episode, talking about how great he was at various stages and then like projecting what they're talking about onto the screen. So
she was sort of like an interviewer almost.
That's what and I think he's had different interviewers.
Probably.
Is what I've heard.
Well, I think she did some things with him. I don't know. I don't know much about Billy Crystal. But he said it was basically like watching a Billy Crystal documentary, except he was there narrating it and didn't need... I think he thought it was going to be jokes or a stand-up routine of some kind, and it was just...
I saw John Cleese' Eric Idle not long ago.
Oh, wow. That should be great.
It should be. And yet it was just a cynical cash grab.
Oh, really?
It was two guys from Monty Python talking about the history of Monty Python to Monty Python fans, who
that's
all
like Comic-Con.
who all knew, yes. Who could have told the story better to them.
Right. In Las Vegas, an Uber picked me up at the airport.
I thought Uber was pretty shut out of Vegas. So.
Yeah, they were for a long time.
Yeah.
Now they're a part of things. As Uber and Lyft both are provided for there at the airport. You don't catch them where the cabs are. You have to go across the way and up a couple of levels, but, they're there. So I get in the Uber and I start talking to the driver because I like the Uber conversations more because...
You can have them.
They're different kinds of people who are now driving. In other words, you can...
Like people who are really needy of conversations. It seems to be the main trend.
And some of them have some very interesting backgrounds. And who's driving the Uber? A lawyer who is making $350 an hour as a successful lawyer in Texas.
Then he moved to Vegas.
And he moved to Vegas. And so I said to him, I want you to call our show.
Oh, no way.
I want Heather and Josh to meet you.
Wait, is this like an Ed Show cliffhanger? Like you have to tune in to the next episode to hear this guy's story? Or are you actually going to tell us?
We're gonna get him on the air right now.
Stop it. This is amazing. All of a sudden, I thought like Mark's going to start doing a different voice.
Right.
Yeah, this is a bit. Let's get him on the phone. Hello? Hello, Heather and Josh. I've heard so much about you.
Fucking Vegas.
I just got really panicky for a second.
This is one of Mark's bits.
Mark doing character work for me. Bang for buck.
You'll like something about this guy, J. Elvis Weinstein.
I'm sure I will.
His name is Josh.
Josh.
What? Amazing.
Hello.
Hey there. This is America's favorite Uber driver.
It is. Hello, Mark.
Welcome to the show, Josh. We have a Josh with us, J. Elvis Weinstein. Josh.
Hello. How are you?
And I also have the lovely Heather with me, who's our other spoke of the wheel.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
So I want to get into your story.
Okay.
Now, you are an Uber driver, am I right? This is not some phony story I've made up.
You're correct.
Yeah. How long have you been an Uber driver?
Maybe 7 weeks.
Yeah, so it's a new thing. You bought a new car for it, right?
Yeah, it was time to get a new car.
Did you go hybrid?
No, I didn't.
Is that a regret now with gas costs?
Yeah, gas. Gas plays a role, yes.
And Josh is a lawyer who is now driving Uber. And you are a successful lawyer in Texas.
Yeah, I practiced about 13 and a half years, mostly litigation. I billed out at $300 an hour.
What kind of litigation?
All kinds, from mass torts, probably done about 500 criminal cases, child custody cases, trials, hundreds of depositions, probably a couple hundred divorces.
So all the worst of people.
Car wreck cases, a little bit of everything. Litigation, probate litigation, dabbed in a little bit of everything.
Did the law excite you when you started? Because clearly something happened and you weren't into it anymore.
Yeah, you feel, of course, everybody has the best intentions and that you can change the world. The world's going to be a better place because of me. And, that's a very noble calling to help people because nobody goes to see an attorney unless they have a problem. That's never a good story. It's a bad story in some way, shape, or form. They've either been sued or arrested or getting divorced or someone's died.
So you weren't motivated to law because it was a payday?
No. In fact, my honesty has probably cost me lots of money. I mean, if people don't have a case, I'm not going to waste their time or money. I just tell them straight up, you don't have a case. Maybe I'm blunt to my own detriment, but I just feel that's my job and my role. I'm not going to play a fairy tale. I'm just going to tell you, you don't have a case.
Now, you end up in Vegas how? And this wasn't your first run. You told me you've been to Vegas. This is like your fifth time there, right?
The sixth. Vegas is like a mistress. When you don't have her, it's all you think about. When you do have her, you can't stand her. It's my sixth time in the last 21 years of being a resident here. And, it's a very unique place. And I have a desire to play poker and this is where poker is.
It's wild that, I'm a big poker player, and it's wild that I end up in an Uber with a lawyer who's given up the legal profession to play cards.
That could have been so much more dangerous than just being podcast guests.
Yeah.
But I feel like the ride-sharing business model has afforded a lot of people a way to go do other things and still make their own hours and make some money and drive when you want.
Is that what you have, the freedom?
Yeah, that's definitely the appeal. Toward nights or mornings, and then
When you're
go play a
down.
poker tournament in the afternoon, you can do anything. Yeah.
But you're
is-
not making $300 an hour.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Are you only driving after like 14-hour shifts in the poker room, getting your ass kicked, and then you go, I gotta go drive now?
Yeah, there are times when you have to drive, let's say. But no, that's the beauty of it, that it's always there. Las Vegas is always booming. There's always people doing something. You could be on the strip at 5 a.m. and get a bunch of rides. It's always happening.
Right.
What do you play and where do you play?
I like to play No Limit Hold'em, of course. That's the prevalent game. But, me and Mark were speaking, some real action is in Pot Limit Omaha, and that game doesn't really get a lot of the attention, but that game is all action. I'm obviously playing low stakes. I don't have a bankroll or a staker, and, I like to play daily tournaments more so than cash games because, in a daily tournament, somebody can put them at risk. If they're bluffing, they bust out. So that's a deterrent, whereas in a cash game, they just, put another 100 and reload. So you want to put them at risk, and kind of like in the legal world, you got to make someone make a decision. And if they're in a tournament and they're going to bust out, they may think twice.
Let me go back 21 years or whatever. I mean, you've been to Vegas 5 times.
How long is each stay, though?
The longest was a year and a half.
Okay, so...
This is my 6th time, and about 2 months into it. My 5th time a couple years ago was 6 months. So I don't know how long I'll make it this time.
You save up a bunch of money and then come out?
Right. When I'm financially able, which in my position it makes it easier to do than I guess most people, I can always go back to Texas and practice law. Dallas and Houston aren't going anywhere. And, come out here and try something different. This time it's Uber with the ultimate dream being, poker.
What were the other dreams along the way?
Chasing girls.
No, that's a big allure, though. I mean, it's a kind of decadent place, right?
There's decadence, you bet.
Chasing girls in Vegas?
There's
I mean, I've been
gambling
there.
and liquor and strippers. If you're
What
into
in
that
this
world.
Where's this
Vegas?
Las
Yeah.
Vegas thing you speak of?
No, I mean, really.
Sounds like a magical place. I must visit someday.
Imagine being 20-something and going, hey, I'm going to go unplug and go do that for a while. It could be fun.
Oh, it was more than fun. I mean, it was all of the above. But, you can only do that in your 20s, really. Now that I'm in my 40s.
Okay, so in the 20s, we'll say you did that, which I just described. Then on your second go-round or third go-round, as you revisit it, what are you doing? Trying to do the same thing and you just can't quite flex that muscle because you realize, hey, I'm older, I'm not into it? Or what's happening in those subsequent visits?
Well, before I went to law school, which was when I was 23, I did a little everything. I waited tables at TGI Fridays. I managed a fast food restaurant. I tried to, foolishly, like most people, make a living gambling. I'd won $28,000 in one night playing poker and thought, well, heck, I can just do this easily. And less than a week later, I was betting $5,000 a hand at MGM, and I lost it all before my first drink got there. So you have to learn the hard knocks that you can't beat the casinos. Whereas poker, you're not playing the casino, you're playing the players.
Are you going to play in the World Series this year?
Yeah, I played in my first event, the very first Millionaire Maker that they had in 2013, and that was my first tournament ever. I beat 6,000 people. I finished in the 300s, and there was like 6,400 entrants, and that paid about $4,600 for a day's worth of work, if you call that work. And I was hooked ever since. I mean, the excitement, you're mentally challenging people basically using plastic. I'm trying to take your chips and you're trying to take my chips. So it's quite exhilarating. So I'm hooked to that feeling,
For those who don't know, the World Series of Poker is literally a series of different tournaments. You see that main event. They're playing for $10,000 a seat, no limit hold'em. But the truth is that the World Series of Poker extends over a couple of months, and there are a ton of different kinds of events. All these different card games all exist in this time. So it's a great opportunity for a guy who loves playing tournaments to kind of have a huge payout potentially.
Yeah, there's like 60 tournaments in the World Series of Poker.
Yeah, it lasts a couple months, and in fact, this year they're having 3 online events.
They are?
Yeah, where I got my chops like a lot of people. I started playing full tilt poker back in the day. It's when I first got introduced to the game. And they're going to have 3 opportunities for people to win bracelets, just basically clicking buttons behind the screen, not having to look at anybody.
That's really cool. So you're talking about this high or this feeling. Are you an addict of sorts?
I'm an addict for the action.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what gambling addiction is.
You can't see their face. They can't see my face. I mean, you could be in your underwear. And I'm pulling off a massive lust,
Yeah.
and you get them to fold, and there's quite a feeling to that. I mean, it's a lot of mental strategy, much like the practice of law, where I'm trying to win. But you only have so many options. You can check, fold, raise, go all in. You got to pick the right one.
Are you married?
No.
Have you been married?
No.
But you had a long relationship. You were effectively married. I learned that on the ride in.
Yeah.
I mean, he was with somebody for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's like two successful Hollywood marriages.
Like 3.
The last 20 years, I've dated nothing but attorneys, and that's a tough combination, 2 attorneys. Yeah, my last relationship was about 9 years with an attorney.
It's easy to get a prenup,
Austin.
at least.
That'd be the least of your problems. I mean,
try dating a stripper.
Very creative. Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with non-attorney women.
Now, hang on a second. I want to talk about that. Now, what's the problem with attorney women?
Well, I mean, maybe you're too like-minded. Maybe you're everyone that goes to law school is an A-plus personality.
Right.
And
when everyone has to win in a marriage, no one wins.
I see.
That's
Okay.
true. It's a puzzle. I mean, I've done a couple hundred divorces. If I knew the answer, I'd write a book about it. Love's tough.
You were telling me about a divorce case, I think, right before you came out to this most recent run in Vegas.
Where did you stay? In Utah? How long was this Uber ride?
It was a long ride in, and I was going to the Bellagio from the airport. That's not really a long ride. We got in this long traffic. Who knows? Maybe Josh took me a long way.
Maybe.
If you recall, it was rush hour traffic. I mean, what can you do?
It was rush hour. Here's how broken I am. Okay, now this is the guy we're talking to, Josh, who has been to Vegas so many times and lived there. This is his 6th time living there. I showed him an entrance to the Bellagio that he didn't even know.
There you go.
That was the level of my success, that I'm such an un-Bellagio able guy that I wouldn't know the entrance. I just know the exit.
Where do you play?
There's a lot of good poker games at Aria.
Yeah.
Golden Nugget has a lot of action. I actually like to play at the Mirage, I've won a lot of money at the Mirage.
I feel like downtown is sort of like the hip-hop happening place now, isn't it?
It is. The Arts District and, the Old Lady Luck became the Grand, and they've really redone a lot of that. And little microbreweries and clubs, and Fremont Street has free performances and bands. One of my buddies plays in it. And, it's a nice place to people watch.
So let me ask you, is this where you're going to settle, or are you going back to Texas? You were in Austin, Texas, which is considered like the really nice part of Texas.
I lived in Austin for 14 years, Houston for 3.
Or is Las Vegas just where you want to be because it's poker and the dynamic of stuff going on all the time is something that you really want to be around for the rest of your life?
I think so. I mean,
But you'll still go back and renew your bar license.
You can do it online.
I mean, it's not that I wouldn't take a case there. There's airplanes.
One of the things that you said to me, which really made the point to me, that this is not just some guy who just can't get off a gambling Jones, but that the fact that, you love the gamble, you have the gamble Jones, there's no denying that, but that you had been earnest in the law, but then you became so disenchanted and realized how bankrupt it was of sort of any of the stuff that you'd associated with it. Was the story you told me about the custody battle with the 2.5-year-old?
Yeah, that was my last trial that I've done. It was last summer. A mother and father fighting over the custody of a 2.5-year-old, and that's a lot of emotion involved in something like that. But I won, so the mother got to keep the kid.
But
a lot of money was spent on all sides, and it was really unfortunate.
But you told me that the guy in this case, the ex-husband, you felt was in the game purely to make her life difficult, not because he really wanted custody of the child at all.
That's correct, and believe it or not, that's kind of common. If I can't have you, I'll make your life hell. It was a ridiculous case.
That's why my father stopped doing family law for that very reason.
Yeah, we had pictures that was admitted into evidence of him smoking a joint 5 feet from his 6-month-old little baby. He clearly had no interest in being the primary custodian where the child lives with you constantly. He was constantly traveling with his job. It was impractical. In fact, after the trial, first couple months, he didn't even exercise visitation, which would seem ridiculous because if you fought so hard to be the custodian, you wouldn't miss one day if you could, with your child. It was basically to get back at the mom. So she's backed into the wall. What's she going to do? Either give in not going to happen, or fight. And to fight costs money. There's no other way to say it. Nobody's going to try a case for free, not something like this. That's the only case. Yeah, sure, people do things like that. You're trying to save a life, but this is the custody fight. Happens every day, everywhere. So, she had no choice but to spend the money. She was lucky she had the resources to do so, to hire someone like me, to basically stuff it in his face and just win. That's what he wanted, and that's what he got.
But after that, you were so disenchanted again. It was like such a bitter experience that you tapped out this time, and now you're in Vegas for the sixth go-around now. Yeah, I mean,
you can hear the admiration in Mark's voice. I hope you know.
Well, it leads up to stuff like that. I mean, unfortunately, in the practice of law, and of course I enjoy helping people. That's a universal feeling. Anybody would agree that is fulfilling and a good thing to do. But beyond helping people, there's always a winner and a loser. And even when you're right, people don't want to use common sense. People bill just to bill, lie, cheat, steal. Of course, all the cliches that go with being a lawyer or lawyer jokes, of course, are true in some sense, or they wouldn't be there. I try to be honest and to literally help people, but it's like a warrior. You do it for so long, sometimes you just want to put down your sword.
Well, I'll tell you that every lawyer I know hates practicing law. And it's a lot of lawyers, too. I mean, it's almost without exception, they hate being lawyers and regret it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the richest guys I know are miserable, and I went and changed places with them for all the money they have. Really. I'd rather be broke and have freedom than be rich and be constrained.
But free and rich is pretty good.
Free and rich is great.
Again, I think it was that the universe
put you together.
Yes, putting us together, Josh. You and I, two degenerate gamblers with hearts of gold. There you are.
Imagine finding two of you in a car in Vegas.
Imagine.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
We so enjoyed talking to you. Thank you. I wish you good luck. Next time I come to Vegas, I'll drop a text on you, and at the very least, we'll
take your money.
No, I doubt.
Hey, if you want to play poker, I'll put your heads up. You want to play cash?
There you go.
Just pull off into an alley somewhere.
Yeah, in the Uber.
That'd be a fun coda to this, the whole thing. I wish I could get back there right away.
And then one of them dies, just shot in the
head.
The loser has to die, not the winner.
That's right.
Good luck, and thanks for visiting with us.
All right, you guys have a great day.
You too.
See you, Josh. That's America's favorite Uber driver, the former attorney, and now the poker player.
Not a former attorney, still an attorney.
Still an attorney.
Yeah, you're right.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's how he stakes himself.
Not practice. He does. He says he doesn't have a staker, but sounds like he might be his own staker.
He's his own staker.
When I talked to him, I really got a sense that he was motivated by the two things, like his, as you said, Josh, his disenchantment with his chosen profession, and also the lure of this place that has all this stuff in it.
Are you addicted to gambling? No, I'm addicted to action.
But here's the thing. It's like, I get it. I don't know. I don't want to try and get too deep on it, but it's like, life is short and it's not getting any better these days. And, F it. I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to drive a car for a living and make my own hours and gamble. I don't know. Unless he's like, got a needle in his arm or living at the motel.
Well, he does. It's the gambling is the needle in his arm.
No, but
it doesn't sound like it though.
No, you're right. He's an Uber driver.
Well,
you're
no.
right. He's got it wired.
That's a job.
I
get it.
Wired.
It's a legitimate job, and the other thing I would say is, he has this thing that enables him to, however the constellation of stuff in his life has worked out, it allows him to play in these tournaments. It seems as though
he's not hurting anyone. So right. Certainly.
But,
he doesn't even seem like he's hurting himself.
I think he'd agreed that he's got a needle in his arm. I've got the same needle.
No, but I don't mean
we're swapping needles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm only describing it as it is. I'm not
if I could
really
save
even
up my
judging
money,
it. I'm just saying that's what's going on.
If I could save my money and move to Bali for 6 months at a time every few years and just read books and surf and whatever, I would. Like my
Josh,
version of Vegas.
But let me contextualize this. That the last time I was in Vegas was to try to save my friend who was drinking himself to death at the time in Vegas as a drummer and addict.
Yeah.
So, and he did, and he succeeded. So
you bring a bias.
I've got a little bit of addiction Vegas, crossover.
Trigger. We triggered Josh.
Yes.
I'd love to play cards, just as Josh, the Uber driver, is doing, and then
Instead of Josh, the wet blanket over here.
I could teach yoga on the side or something.
Yes. Well, probably not.
Probably not.
You don't have patience for
I couldn't do one yoga position. I was literally trying to pick the thing that was
the Mark Thompson School of Broadcasting in my minivan.
Yeah.
Make your demo tape in just a half hour. $500.
Yeah, like the headshot van.
Yeah.
But do like a demo reel van.
This is American Idol. Say that for me.
All right. Well, there you go.
Oh, that was fun.
That was fun. Josh, give us a quick update. Where can people find you?
I've got both documentaries now have distributors.
Ooh.
That's terrific.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
So we're working on delivering those.
By the way, just on the finding an investor and all that stuff.
Well, in this case, it's like an angel investor who loves the film. All right?
I see.
It's the co-author of the
nice.
punk book Please Kill Me.
Oh, wow.
You know that oral history of punk that's
Yeah.
been around for.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that great?
Named Gillian McCain, so she's into the story and into Michael, and I'm excited about it.
And how about I Need You to Kill?
I Need You to Kill? I'm probably within a day of signing the deal for the distribution, and that one will come out first, I think.
That's terrific, Josh. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You can tweet at Josh at @JElvisWeinstein. Heather, what's going on with you? You just did Criminal Minds. You were great in that episode. Did you get a lot of buzz from your Criminal Minds appearance?
You know, I did. I did. I actually even had one of the stars of the show found me and sent me a message and said, I just wanted to let you know how lovely I thought your performance was.
Oh, good for them.
Wow.
And his girlfriend.
Good for you, obviously, but good for them for doing that.
Yeah, and his girlfriend, one of the main actors on the show, one of the main cast, and his girlfriend also wanted to pass along her whatever. So that felt good.
I was bounce back and forth between thinking that acting is super easy and then also super hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see people acting, I'm going, yeah, man, that doesn't
You are just profound today.
No, what I mean is, first of all, as a VO guy, like I see people punch the wrong word in a line all the time. It's like it totally changes the meaning. I'm thinking, Jesus, don't you know how to speak English? I mean, that just doesn't even sound like somebody conversationally would sound. Leave aside the acting and all that stuff. But then I'm astounded by the virtuosity associated with some of these situations. I watching even just regular episodic television. Like I'm watching Criminal Minds the other night. I'm going, holy fuck, these guys are all really good. I mean, it's like I could not do one scene with any of these people. You give me 6 months to prepare.
Right.
That's
amazing the way you do that. The way you remember your lines and say them out and look like a character. It's fantastic.
All right.
No, I want to hear more. Come on.
Anyway,
I want to hear more. I need all the praise I can get.
Well, as a writer, I mean, you absolutely know that good acting is the exception more than the rule, and so it's super exciting when an actor takes a piece of yours and surprises you with it, even though you wrote it, because they bring dimension to it that you weren't even thinking of. You were thinking of transmitting one thing with that line, and they're going, no, but it's a human being, so there's more than one message that's coming through. So it's exciting from all ends.
And it's funny, you hear writers say that. Now, I just heard that you mentioned it, so it's cool that you mentioned it, because I guess that's really true. It's in a way like maybe like writing some notes of music or something, and then an artist riffs on it, and you go, holy.
I'd really forgotten, because I've been doing documentaries for like 5 years. And I just did it. I was a subject. I was interviewed in a Freaks and Geeks documentary, and so I went back and watched my episodes, and I was like, it was like remembering how fun it is to have good actors say your lines.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I never really thought about it from a writer's
perspective. It really was a revelation. Like, oh, that's right. That really is exciting, and that really is something that I kind of miss as a director.
Yeah. Well, it felt good. It was hard to watch. And I was actually in San Jose, and they'd had a viewing party for me, which was really cute. And actually, the guy who had the viewing party presented me with an Emmy with my name inscribed on it.
Oh, that's terrific.
I mean, I got a picture. I got video. You got to see this guy. He's like smoking a cigarette inside his house. He's like 60 years old, and he's reading off of a script. He put a tux on, the whole thing.
How terrific.
Wow.
It was, my cup runneth over. But the next day, I got a lot of had to leave when it wasn't your part. I guess that like stealing a little girl and hiding her really was.
It was
rubbing
really
some people. It was really dark.
Creepy, yeah.
Yeah, and creepy. And the guy looked like Steve Buscemi, like a young Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, it was Heather plays the mother of this missing teen, and it's really hard to see it. It's the reason that I could never watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I couldn't watch one episode. I tried because I loved Law and Order. I liked the classic one, but it was all about these horrible sex crimes. Unspeakable stuff. And I couldn't believe, week after week, I just could never even, it was on, and I was working in local news at the time. It's on the effing monitors. I was like, God damn, I can't even watch it for a second. It really gives me, I find it so disturbing. But that's also the reality of this stuff. It plays real. You
Yeah,
know?
it does. And, you know, the cast looks real. That's one of the things my mom said because I looked so bad. But there was no hair. There was no make. You know, I was like an upset mom, but I really couldn't get over how bad I looked. But I've been rising above it.
You know, Heather said that. I said, "Oh wow, you're great." She said, "Oh, I look awful." She's supposed her daughter's missing. Supposed
You'd
to be
suspect her if she didn't look awful.
right.
But my mom said most of the cast, like that's not. I mean, the women are pretty, of course. Paget Brewster and AJ Cook or whatever her name is. But it's like
Paget Brewster is one of the most beautiful women I've ever
yeah.
seen.
But she said that all the guest cast, most of the men, you know, that it's not some soap opera. You know, she thinks that show, they all look very real.
It's not some soap opera, but Paget Brewster does not belong in that unit.
She is the prettiest. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, holy shit, can I have her work on my case?
I know.
But congratulations again.
Thanks. Hopefully I'll have some more.
We will play some audio from Heather's Criminal Minds on a future episode, too.
Yay.
There's something else I was going to mention to the audience. I can't really remember what it was now.
Is that Menudo? That's fantastic.
You know, I'm your wide-eyed host. It all is important. We appreciate your comments. You can leave it on our website, like even the mobile website. There's a place for comments. You can also contact us on Twitter. I'm at Mark T. Live, and, you know, again, Heather is at Heather Ankeny, and Josh is at J. Elvis Weinstein. Everybody, thanks for being here. Bye.
Hey, everybody, why don't you do me a favor and like The Edge with Mark Thompson on Facebook? Yeah, that's going to bring in the kids.
Edge-show.com.